Hola, it's that time again for another segment of A Critical Perspective, Mic Drops, where I recognize those truth bombs that I couldn't have said any better myself. Today's mic drop is from April Chapman, creator and host of the Standard of Truth podcast. April does an awesome job providing commentary on theological, social, political, and culturally relevant topics from a biblical perspective. I love her breakdown on the Tyree Nichols tragedy. So I'm going to stop talking because she has a lot to say, and a lot of people need to hear it. So buckle up and check this out.
When I first heard that take, I was like, okay, I'm struggling to understand how this is racism when the people who killed him were black. So you have 5 black officers and they brutally beat a black man. And this is somehow, they're going to spin this as systemic racism. You have white liberals actually perpetuating this falsehood too, because they're saying, well, what you don't understand is that it's just systemic. It's so deeply ingrained into the fiber of this country that these black officers, because they are employed by this white supremacist police system, it's just that their mere employment by this government agency makes them complicit in racism. I actually saw a black woman, spewing such retarded rhetoric, and it made absolutely no sense. One, don't allow the mainstream media, the YouTube pundits, and the community activists to manipulate you and emotionally bait you in to this discussion. So we can have the conversation of the fact that Memphis is one of the most dangerous cities in this country, right? We can have that discussion. We need to have the discussion why 5 black police officers felt it was necessary to use the excessive force that they use at a routine traffic stop. But the conversation that I want to have is the conversation that no one in the black community really wants to have. And it's a conversation on both sides of this issue. Why is it that in the black community, there is a high instance of rebelling against authority? What's been going on in the black community for the past 60 years? What is the underlying problem that we've seen in our community that everybody knows it's a problem, but everyone wants to walk around this elephant in the room? When you have an entire generation of young boys that turn into men that were raised without fathers, actively in the home, married to their mothers,
Correct.
there is an element of rage, there is an element of emotionalism that you do not see in other communities and in other black communities where there is instances of intact families where the father is the head of the home, the mother is lovingly submitting to that husband, and the children understand authority because this is how they were raised. What do we see when there are households that are run not just by single black women, but generations of matriarchy? And don't come for me saying, well, I was raised by a single mother and I'm not like that. I'm not talking about you per se. You've got Generation X, which is my generation, who abandoned the heteronormative nuclear family structure in lieu of, I can do bad all by myself. I can go to college, get my degree, get my master's degree, have these kids, raise them because I'm strong, I'm independent, I don't need nobody. We're seeing the fruits of that all over this country in every major city.
Marcus.
They have no concept of what it means to submit to male authority. So when they leave the home and they get out into the real world and they actually have to submit to someone's authority, they don't know how to respond to that in a healthy way. We're not marrying before we carry, and then we have these babies. We have this offspring that is now growing up bitter angry, rebellious, full of rage, hyper emotional, because all they know is living in a house with a bunch of women. Between their aunties and their mima and grandmama and great grandmama. All of these cops are between the ages of 23 and 32. These are young Black men. And I'm not trying to not hold these cops responsible. These are grown men. They're young, but they are adult males. But you know what else I noticed? Who's the police chief of Memphis, Tennessee? Are we going to talk about how things are just out of order in our community? And we're so progressive. We're so advanced and modern. We're so lockstep with the feminist agenda that we can't even see that even down to the political decisions that we make are detrimental to our communities. When are we going to look at our community and say, we did this? We created this monstrosity of rage and hyper emotionalism and the idea that when things don't go my way, I can just react. I can just run. I don't have to submit myself to rules or standards or requirements. When are we going to have that conversation? Why do we have all of this matriarchal female leadership as if that is good for us? This female matriarchal leadership is not good for us because the ones out here acting a fool and terrorizing our own communities look just like us and were raised by us. Us meaning the gynocracy, the matriarchy. Yes, it is unfortunate that Tyree Nichols lost his life. There is no excuse that a routine traffic stop results in being brutally beaten to death. But there's also no excuse that at a routine traffic stop, that simple instructions cannot be submitted to and complied with. I'm not saying you can't peacefully protest and be angry and demand accountability from the Memphis Police Department, but they've already lost their jobs and they've already been charged with second-degree murder. So listening to the Ben Crumps of the world, the ambulance chaser, the one who's just grifting because he needs money, they need this narrative. They need to stoke the flames of racism when this doesn't even fit the narrative. But just like because our homes are ruled by emotion, because there's no man to balance it out with logic and reason, the media is doing the same thing to you. You got Don Lemonhead out here and then the police chief, and it's just a mess. So I know this isn't what you were expecting to hear, but that doesn't make it any less true. Eat it, ladies. We raised them. And men, some of y'all abandoned your home. So we need to take ownership of that. Get back the basics. Having scattered babies all over the country or the city or the county, that's not it. All we know is chaos and conflict. And God never designed it to be that way.
Man. Amen. Amen. And amen. That's the first mic drop to make me take a seat. Now, after watching that, I'm going to guess you know why she'll never be invited on any platform hosted by the mainstream media. They don't want that type of smoke. This is why alternative and independent media is so important, fam. The wokeites and the afrostacracy, they don't want you exposed to people who are going to tell the truth. And they don't want you to know about people like April who is willing to tell the truth and expose them. So April Chapman, this mic drop is for you. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your bravery. Thank you for being willing to stand for truth in a climate that promotes lies and rewards those who sell and tell them 24/7. Go to astandardofTruthpodcast.com today to find out more about this amazing woman of God. Also, make sure you subscribe to her YouTube channel because she has so many videos that are just as powerful. Listen, you will find out she does not tolerate foolishness at all. And we need more people like her if we're going to stop our country from falling to the corrupt cultural Marxists. Amen. #Blexit. So that's a wrap for this edition of A Critical Perspective, Mic Drops. To all my Christ family, to all my patriots, I'm your brother, no matter your color. Remember this, life isn't fair, but God is just.